Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3501. Today's date is 24th of July 2025. It's been almost like a night at 10:07 p.m. All right, we directly jump into the question. All right, yeah. Okay, question is, what legal rule apply to employee contract in India? Okay. Okay, what is this question? Okay, yeah. Okay, first of all, um, this is question is most associated with the business, associated with the startup. Okay, yeah. I wanted to establish a business. I wanted to establish a startup. I wanted to know more about this business and startup because I didn't really have any information regarding about this thing. I haven't really done any graduation. I haven't really done any MBA. Nothing. Okay, yeah. But if I wanted to start a business, I need to know everything. Okay, yeah. So this is the question is associate with a business. Okay, yeah, or a startup or things like that. Be more specifically, this question is mostly associate with the mistakes in business. What's a mistake in business? There are almost like 90% of startup or businesses went to failure within a 5 year. 90% of the business went to failure. The reason are kind of like a simply management or the way that the procedure happened, or the chairman doesn't really know how it works, or things like that, or kind of like a bad decisions or things like that. Okay, yeah. So if I wanted to do a startup, if I wanted to do establish a business, I don't want to do such a mistake. At least I need to aware of that key what will gonna happen and how do I supposed to control this thing. Because when you are kind of like running a business, you are not gonna do this by yourself. Obviously you need a lot of people. Okay, yeah. And when you are involved lot of people, things might be messed up. Okay, like basically you don't really think that, you don't really want that business should supposed to be um, close or things like that, but still the situation something happened and you just can't control it. So I don't want that thing is actually happened with me. So I wanted to aware of all those things. All right, so yeah. So these questions are specifically regarding about mistakes in business, mostly associated with the kind of like something like that key, regarding about employee, regarding about how do we supposed to contract, how do we supposed to like. Okay, yeah. Basically I'm talking about as a Indian point of perspective. When you are hiring someone, okay, yeah, and when that particular person actually working for you, okay, yeah, you are actually thinking that that person is actually working for you and you are giving the salary and that's it. But that is not. Okay, that is not. Because as a company, as a chairman, as a kind of like a somebody CEO or kind of like a things, ah, if I wanted to hire somebody, okay, yeah, I need to make sure that person is valid for that job that he wanted to do. One thing. Another thing is that it's not just happened that much easily. Okay, yeah, we need to do a lot of paperwork, a contract or things like that. It's a contract, it's a kind of like a some legal term regarding about me and kind of like a some employee. That key in that particular contract, it mention everything that key, who is the person, what kind of like a job he do, what kind of like a some designation that he has, what kind of like a somebody earn money that he will gonna earn, how much he will get the salary, how much he will get kind of like a some casual leave, sick leaves, maternity leaves. There are so many things. Okay, yeah. So basically this thing, this kind of like a contract is really essential. It's a kind of like a somebody like basically these are kind of like a legal contract. Okay, legal contract to kind of like a build the relation between the employee from company to the employee. Okay, yeah. But it's just like that na ki in everyday life it's not actually work. Okay, like we didn't really went to the office by kind of like a giving the contractor form in our pocket and kind of like a show them that ki, this is my contract form, and no, nothing at all. Yeah, it's a kind of like a legal document. It only use when you are hiring or when you are kind of like a leaving the company. in that particular time, this contract is, yeah, it's a kind of like a legal document. Okay, yeah. So how do I supposed to kind of like a simply is how do I supposed to do this thing? How do I supposed to find how do I supposed to this legal document? How do I what is actually clause? What is actually is this thing? How do I supposed to okay, yeah. So let me tell you one thing. In India, uh, if you wanted to hire somebody, there is a kind of like a simply proper protocol. Okay, yeah. Okay, let me explain. Okay, yeah. A protocol for kind of like a simply for such a company who is kind of like earning money, one thing. Another thing, that person that I am hiring, that person is kind of like a simply valid. Okay, yeah. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing: if I am a kind of like a simply just a bandiwala who is kind of like a selling a teas to the people, okay, yeah, and I hire a kind of like a simply chotu who is kind of like a simply giving the chai to somebody and things like that, he is kind of like a helping me. Okay, yeah. So should I do contract with that particular chotu? No, probably not. Okay, yeah. By the way, in India, child labor is not allowed. Okay, yeah. Means like that ki the person who is kind of like a doing this kind of like a job or selling this tea or things like that should supposed to be more than 18. Okay, yeah. Like should supposed to be more than 18. But is that ki if that chotu is your son or things like that, then things might be very different game. Okay, means like that your son is kind of like a helping you to do a business, then yeah. But kind of like somebody a kind of like somebody, another person who is kind of like underage and he is kind of like a somebody helping your business or kind of like do this thing, it's a little bit illegal. It's not really illegal, it's a prohibited, it's not really illegal, it's a prohibited. Okay, yeah, it's something that ki our Indian constitution is kind of like simply make sure that ki till the age of 18 the person should supposed to be educated first, not kind of like a do this labor work and things like that. Okay, yeah. So this is what it is. Okay, yeah. So basically we have kind of like a some legal document. Okay, yeah. So how do we supposed to execute this legal document? How kind of like a simply yeah, what is actually the protocol? Okay, first is that key make sure who is actually hiring. Okay, yeah. First of all, as a like a, let just kind of like a simply understand. Okay, yeah, what I can't do. Okay, yeah, what I can't do. Okay, can't do means like that key like basically I am a company. Okay, yeah, employee will work whatever the work they are doing, I'm earning money from their work, right? Yeah. So basically is this thing I can do anything, like basically in the end I'm giving the salary, so basically I'm gonna say that ki work here for 24 hour. Okay, yeah, like I will gonna provide the kind of like a food and thing and everything, you just have to do kind of like a 8 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, 15 hours or 18 hours, just do your work. Okay, yeah. Am I able to say this thing or am I able to do this thing? No, I can't do that. Okay, Indian government not allow me to do that thing. Okay, yeah. But there are so many companies are doing it that. Like basically I was in the particular company while I was kind of like a working for almost like a 10 hour is a kind of like a very normal time. Okay, yeah, 10 hour, yeah. So basically it's not really that kind of like a somebody that key. But what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that key, if you are doing this thing once in a week or things like that, that is okay. Or maybe you have a deadline and you have to complete this deadline, then probably you have to extend your hour and things like that, that is also okay. It's a kind of like a mutual understanding between you and your company and the project and things like that. Okay, yeah. But it's not that, it's not really like that ki as a company is actually putting you to kind of like a do the work for 10 hour and 12 hour. No, it's not happening the way that like that is. Okay, yeah. So basically as a company I can't kind of like a simply let that person kind of like a work for me for 12 or 14 or 15 hour. No, it's not. Indian government is not allow me to do that thing. Indian government is actually allow me that whoever the person will gonna join in your company, that person is actually work 8 hour, that's it. Okay, yeah, 8 hour. Okay, maybe you can extend like a 9 hour or maybe yeah, but not more than that. Okay. like it's also kind of like a mutual understanding between you and the company and things like that. But Indian government actually allow me to 8 hours. One thing. Okay. Now another thing is that I have to give them leave. Okay, yeah, leave. What is exactly leave? A leave means like that casual leaves. Okay, yeah, a holiday or kind of like a something the maternity leaves. Okay, yeah, these are really essential. Like first of all, is that Sunday should supposed to be off. Yeah, Sunday should supposed to be off. Like there is a weekday and it's off. That means off. One thing. Another thing is that there is a kind of like a something casual leaves. Okay, what's the casual leaves? There is a kind of like a something the casual leaves are kind of like a something a leave that fixed to the employee, means like that in the entire year there is almost like a 10-20 casual leaves. Okay, 10-20, I don't know, but there are 10-20 casual leaves. I'm not really sure how much casual leaves, but there are almost like a some sort of number of casual leaves, means like that as an employee can take the casual leave whenever he want. He just have to do the email and things like that I am taking the casual leaves. And yeah, casual leaves only, also sick leaves. Okay, yeah, like 15 casual leaves, 15 sick leaves. Sick leave means like that you are kind of like a sick, or you are kind of like a somebody not feel really good, or you are, yeah, so you will gonna take leave, so you just have to do the mail and things like that. Yeah, these are kind of like assembly leave are really essential. By the way, you have to be pay money. Okay, what do you mean by that? Like basically is this thing that the person who took the sick leave, okay, yeah, he is actually at the home, he didn't really come to the office, but you have to give the money for that day. Okay, but he didn't really came now. No, you have to give the money. Okay, it's not really that basically he didn't really come, and no, you can't cut off the day, you can't really cut off his money. No, you just have to give the money. Okay, so sick leave, casual leaves are essential. Okay, now maternity leave. Okay, there are women might be working there, and basically they will got pregnant. Okay, and when they got pregnant, they definitely won't be able to do kind of like assembly work. Okay, yeah, so basically they have to give like as a company you have to give them maternity leave for almost like maybe 3 months to, I don't know, yeah, 2 months to 3 months. But these are kind of like a leaves are really essential for women. Okay, yeah, as well as maternity leaves also provide to the male too. Okay, means like that the husband who is kind of like somebody helping his, so basically maternity leave not only get women but as well as male person get maternity leaves too. Okay, yeah, as a woman get 1 to 2 or 3 months of maternity leaves, as a husband get almost like a 15 to 20 days of maternity leave. Okay, yeah, these are kind of like some leaves are you have to give them. Okay, yeah, okay. Another thing is that the person that you gonna hiring, you are not gonna hiring a person for limited period of time. No, nothing at all. Means like that as you are the company, you gonna make sure that the person who is actually hiring you, you are kind of like a somebody make sure that person is kind of like a with you for till the end. Okay, till this company or things like that. Okay, yeah, yeah, means what I'm trying to tell you is this thing you are not actually hiring somebody for just 1 year or 2 year or 6 months or things like that. But why not? Okay, yeah, like basically if I have a project and basically that project is for me for 6 months, and I need a couple of people to kind of like do my designs, things like that. So I'm gonna hire a couple of people for 6 months, and after the project end I'm gonna leave them. I'm gonna kind of like somebody is this thing. So like why not I do that thing? What's the problem? Like if I hire somebody for 6 months, well, this is something really wrong. Okay, yeah, because in the end, like what is exactly job for? Okay, yeah, like why are you kind of like providing a job? Like look at it from the government point of perspective. Okay, yeah, why the company is actually kind of like giving the job, so that that particular person, the person who's kind of like doing a job for you, that particular person gets some sort of salary. When that particular person gets salary, he will kind of like feel settled, he will kind of like spend that money on his family or things like that. So basically that cycle will gonna continue. If that particular person didn't really have a job, that means he didn't really have money, so that means he didn't really have kind of like a spend money on his family. So basically that family became poorer, right? So it's not really good now. So basically is this thing, government wants to company that key whoever the person that you gonna hire, make sure that you're gonna hire for lifetime. Okay, like there is some sort of contract maybe for 10 year or 20 year or whatever it is, but yeah, these are kind of like a simply is this thing. Okay, means that till the age of kind of like that particular employee, you have to hire that particular person. Okay, yeah, you shouldn't supposed to be hire a particular person for kind of like a 1 year or 2 year or 3 year. Okay, yeah, but there is some sort of kind of like a things are also available. Okay, yeah, like I'm talking about as a kind of like a simply as a company point of perspective. Okay, yeah, but there are some sort of work that kind of like a simply doesn't really require a kind of like a company. Like basically some of the work really required to complete the tender. Okay, yeah, what's a tender? A tender means like that a kind of like a simply a particular job that you have to do for a particular period of time. Okay, like a building the roads or kind of like a simply the construction and things like that. Okay, yeah, so these are kind of like a simply work should supposed to be happen through the tender. Means like that key the government is actually kind of like a fill up the tender that key this is the job that you have to do in that particular tender. There is a kind of like a something the list of job that you have to do. Okay, yeah, you have to hire somebody for a particular period of time and you have to give the money. Okay, yeah, but this is very different game. Okay, yeah, like a tender is actually meant for kind of like a something, yeah, it's not okay, it's a government thing, dude. Okay, yeah, like if I'm building the business and startup, it's a private thing. In the private thing, tender are, I don't know, I don't really think that tender I should supposed to be, it's a, like if you don't really know, tender is a kind of like a something a contract between the person who is kind, it's a very different game. Okay, we are not gonna talk about this thing. Okay, we are not gonna talk about this thing. Okay, we are gonna talk about just a contract regarding about the company and employee. Okay, yeah, now what do we talk? Okay, we complete the leave, holiday leave, casual leave, maternity leave. Okay, yeah, also yes, um as a kind of like a somebody company, we as I am a company. Okay, yeah, I wanted to make sure that ki person gets salary. That is essential, right? Yeah, a person gets salary with 5% increment in every year. What do you mean by that? Like basically if I'm not kind of like getting the profit, then what exactly is this mean? Well, probably is this thing na ki it's essential. Okay, you have to do those things. It's non-negotiable. Like if you are hiring somebody, that means you have to give them kind of like somebody 5% increment every year because of the inflation and things or something like that. Like basically let me tell you one thing now. Okay, yeah, if I'm hiring somebody for like a 30,000 rupees per month. Okay, yeah, and that person actually worked for me for almost like a 20 year. Right now is 2025. After the 20 year means like that ki 40 sorry 2045. Okay, yeah, so can you imagine the person who is kind of like doing a job for me for just 30,000 in 2045? Would you? No, definitely not. Na, like in 2045 things might be very different. Okay, in that particular time 30,000 would be like a really less. Okay, yeah, he won't be able to kind of like simply sustain and things like that. So basically is this thing, it is really essential that ki inflation is every year inflation actually happen. Okay, yeah, so we have to make sure that as a kind of like a company that ki that 5% increment should supposed to be get to the employee. Okay, another thing. Okay, whatever the customer, whatever the employee is actually earning salary. Okay, salary, you have to spend some sort amount of salary to his provident fund, to his pension fund. What exactly is this thing? Okay, by the way, this is kind of like a something the I'm talking about as a government point of perspective. Okay, yeah, but in private sector these are kind of like a things are also really okay, yeah. In I'm not really sure. Okay, yeah, but in private sector, like basically private means business and things like that, we don't really have pension fund. We have also we have only have provident fund. Okay, yeah, what's a provident fund? A provident fund means like that ki if employee salary is 30,000 rupees. Okay, yeah, So you are not actually give the 30,000 rupees to the employee. No, you are actually giving the salary 25,000 rupees. Okay, yeah, 5,000 rupees of that employee salary is actually cut down, and that whatever the money, that 5,000 rupees is actually invested in kind of like a something um, FD, SIP or whatever it is. Okay, to kind of like a something that ki when that particular person leave, if that particular person work for almost like a do the service for my company for 20 year, so I have collected all those 5,000 rupees, uh, 5,000 rupees every year, every month. Okay, we collected that particular amount of money and actually giving them money with proper interest, that key, like basically we are kind of like saving this money for 20 year because he is actually working for me for 20 years. So basically I have to give them this provident fund. Okay, yeah, a kind of like a some lump sum amount of money. Okay, in government they also have a kind of like some pension fund too. Okay, yeah, means like that ki it's a like we are actually collecting some sort of amount of money and we actually giving them fund when that particular person retired or things like that. So yeah, so basically this is the stuff that you should supposed to be do. It's the essential. Okay, as a government contract you have to do those things. Okay, yeah. Then tax. Okay, yeah, what's a tax? Means like that the person in your company is actually earning so much amount of money from your company. Let's just say like a 1 lakh 2 lakh rupees per month. Okay, yeah, like let's just say the particular person in my company who is actually earning 2 lakh rupees per month. That means it's a really good salary. Okay, 2 lakh rupees means like that annually he's earning almost like a 25 24 lakh rupees per year. Okay, so which is like a really big values. Okay, really big amount of money. Okay, yeah, so government want taxation too. Okay, yeah, like basically the employee who actually earning so much amount of money. Okay, yeah, that particular person do the taxation. Okay, yeah, and that taxation has to be done by the kind of like a simply through the company or by the employee point of perspective. Yeah, like what exactly is this thing? Like basically is this thing, you are kind of like giving the salary 2 lakh rupees per month to the some sort of employee. Okay, yeah, so after the taxation you are not giving the 2 lakh rupees to the employee. No, you are actually giving them 1 lakh 60,000 rupees. Yeah, 1 lakh 60,000 rupees you are actually giving the money to that particular employee. 40,000 rupees or maybe I don't know, I'm not really sure, but like basically 30,000 or maybe 40,000 will gonna cut down to the taxation. Okay, yeah, it will went to the government. Okay, because the employee who actually earning so much amount of money, so he has to give some sort of amount of money to the taxation, and this actually happened. Okay, every month. Ah, like basically taxation should supposed to be done once in a year, na? Like it should have supposed to be happen every month. I am not really sure about at this moment. Okay, yeah, but like basically maybe properly, like basically one of my friend who's actually earning 1 lakh rupees and he didn't really get 1 lakh rupees every single month. He get almost like a maybe 80 to 85,000, 80 to 85,000 rupees per month, 15,000 rupees, 50 to 20,000 rupees cut down on the taxation. He mentioned that thing. I'm not really sure the exact number. I'm not really sure about the entire protocol regarding about how this taxation system work, but you have to do those things. You have to do the kind of like some taxation and ITR file regarding about the person who is actually earning so much amount of money. So this taxation should supposed to be happen. Okay. um okay, these are happened. Then what is actually details? Okay, then okay, sick leave, holidays, then salary, pension, provident fund, taxation, then health insurance. Okay, health insurance is also really essential. Means like that ki the person who is kind of like a working for your company, you have to give them health insurance. Means like that ki if that particular person get really injured while doing some sort of work or things like that, so you have to give them kind of like some sort of basic health insurance. Means like that basic kind of like a treatment should supposed to be free. But if that particular person or employee who's actually suffering from cancer or things like that, then this is not a kind of like a um, something that I would kind of like take care of that. Okay, yeah. But it's like, dude, na, it's a kind of like a somebody, the person who is actually working for your company, he got the cancer. Okay, yeah. So would you pay the money for that cancer? I don't know about this thing, because in the health insurance, you have to kind of like a cover less than maybe like a 50,000. Okay, yeah. Cancer is a kind of like a treatment cost like a 1 2 4 5 lakh rupees. Okay, I'm probably this would not gonna kind of like a somebody as a company would cover. I'm not really sure, but regarding about the health insurance, but still regarding about the health insurance is a kind of like a something very tricky term regarding about the work profile. Means like that ki if that particular person is kind of like a somebody work on mining, or kind of like a somebody doing some sort of heavy work, or that particular employee is kind of like a working on your nuclear facility, then health insurance kind of like a somebody varied regarding about what kind of like a some health insurance that you are giving to it. I am kind of like a running a business. Whoever the employee will kind of like a somebody work in my company, they are kind of like a sitting a job. Okay, yeah, they are kind of like a sitting and doing the job in front of the computer and things like that. It's not really harmful. It's not really kind of like a things. I will gonna provide the table, chair, AC, everything. Okay, it's not really that kind of like a somebody bad. So I'm not really sure that the person will get cancer because of doing this job and things like that. And it's also like I'm not really sure, but I don't really think that the cancer should supposed to be recovered in the health insurance. No, it's not. A kind of like a somebody basic thing, like a basically all the kind of like a somebody the whatever thing happened, like a if it kind of like a take less than 50,000 rupees, then this should supposed to be covered by myself. Okay, this should supposed to be I will cover, like a company will cover. But if that particular person is kind of like a simply feel and dealing with lot of disease and things and something like that which cost more than lakh rupees, then probably I can't. Okay, I can't do that. More maybe it's just like that key. I don't know about at this moment, but yeah, probably I think this is the stuff that I might know. Okay, but when I do this kind of like a legal thing, then I'm gonna make sure that okay, but this is the stuff that I know. Okay, yeah, that I'm gonna provide health security, okay, to the employee. Okay, also I'm not gonna provide the term life insurance. Okay, term life insurance should supposed to be do it by the kind of like a something for the employee by themselves. By the way, what's a term life insurance? A term life insurance means like that the person who is actually die while doing a job. Okay, yeah. So in that particular process, you have to give the money to the kind of like a family of their things or something like that. But still, it's kind of like a depend on work profile. Okay, means like that the person who is kind of like a doing a job, or kind of like a hard job, or kind of like a labor and things like that, then yeah. But it's like that na ki, as I mentioned, I am running a business. The company, the person who is kind of like a work for me will kind of like a sitting a job. It's not kind of like a somebody very hard work and things like that. So but still, if that particular person die uh, of doing a work in my company, then would you not provide any kind of like a fund to his family or things like that? I'm not really sure. Okay, yeah, because as a company are actually providing health insurance, term life insurance is not provided by, like, mostly I don't know the company will gonna provide any kind of like a term life insurance. Like a basically if you are running the nuclear facility or kind of like a things that which has kind of like a somebody always have health insurance factor, or kind of like a life is at always in risk, in that particular period of time the company is actually kind of like a provide the term life insurance to them, to their family, like a basically if your person die, things like that. So I will gonna provide money to his family or things like that. But still, as I mentioned, my work profile is just kind of like a somebody sitting a job, so probably yeah. So okay, by the way, these are all those things I shouldn't supposed to be worried about, that nothing really at all. Okay, yeah, because in India we have EOR, employee of record. Okay, it's a kind of like a somebody department. Okay, yeah, means that department will kind of like handle everything. I shouldn't supposed to be kind of like do anything at all. I shouldn't supposed to be nothing really at all. Like a EOR can handle everything regarding about taxation, salaries, holidays, fund, provident fund, health insurance, everything is actually handled by themselves. Okay, yeah. I shouldn't supposed to be worry about anything at all. Okay, yeah. What's the EOR? EOR is a kind of like employment of record. Okay, employment of record. It's a kind of like a sort of department. Okay, yeah, which kind of like a something like that, giving the salary and things like that. Means like that. What I do is that ki you like a basically whoever the person I will gonna hire. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna hire by myself. Okay, yeah, and whatever the like that resume will gonna hire that went to the EOR. EOR kind of like a make the contract regarding about which person, what is that designation, this and that and that, make that particular contract. Okay, yeah. So that basically is this thing that key it will give my signature as a chairman, and it will get kind of like a something the EOR signature, means the people who authorize the EOR, and then the employee authorization signature. Okay, yeah, means like that you are authorized, you EOR and kind of like a assembly employee are authorized to this contract, which kind of like a written everything regarding about how much work that you do, how much salary that you get, everything. Okay, health insurance, this and that also, yes. So this is kind of like some things are actually mentioned. Okay, yeah, and EOR is kind of like handling everything. Okay, yeah, dude, but you have to give the salary, na? No, EOR actually giving the salary. I'm not giving the salary. I'm actually giving the money to the EOR. Okay, yeah. Like I'm actually giving the money. Like this is the money. Take this money. Okay, and the EOR is actually handle everything. Okay, taxation, this and that. It just I shouldn't supposed to worry about anything at all. Okay, yeah. This I think this is the stuff that I heard. Okay, I'm not really sure by the way, because I just heard, like I just do the Google and things like that. What is actually EOR and things like that. So yeah. Also, I haven't really mentioned by the way. Notice period. Yeah, like basically if the person is kind of like wanted to be fired, or sorry, wanted to be kind of like a somebody not to do a job in my company, so he can do a kind of like a somebody a leave, he can do the resignation. Okay, yeah. By the way, the resignation process actually happened it takes month. Okay, yeah, like there is a proper protocol to do this thing. Okay, because you are the terminate this yeah, terminate this contract with you, with a company, with EOR and things like that. So what is that is this thing that he, when you are kind of like doing the resignation, you have to write the resignation, you have to do the manager, do the things. Okay, yeah. And basically you, when you are applied the resignation, they will gonna mention that you have to work here for at least 15 to 20 days. Okay, yeah, after you put the resignation, it's not gonna happen that you put the resignation and tomorrow I will not gonna come. No, it's not. Okay, yeah, it will take almost like a 10 to 15 days to kind of like do all those processing and things like that, end of your contract. Okay, as well as like when you are kind of like doing the resignation, the kind of like some EOR actually release the provident fund, okay, to you, like how much, like if you are working in my company for 5 years, so probably you are actually giving all those provident fund that collected throughout this all those years, they're actually giving this money to you and things like that, and end of the contract with the signature and things like that, with the chairman signature and basically you are and kind of like things, end of the contract. Okay, I will not gonna fire somebody just without any reason. Means like that ki if I found a kind of like some person who is kind of like some really not good person, like he is not really asset in my company, he's really unproductive, he is kind of like spoiling the environment and things like that. So basically is this thing, what am I do, what kind of like assembly is this thing that ki, how do I supposed to fire that particular person? I have to be fired, like I have kind of like authorization to fire that particular person. Okay, first of all is that ki I will not gonna do those things directly, by the way. Okay, first of all is that ki whatever the problem that he have with, like whatever the problem that employee that have, okay, means like that he's spoiling this, that. Okay, your manager will gonna talk, or a human resource HR will gonna talk to that employee that ki your behavior or your working or your productivity is not really good and things like that. Okay, yeah. So we are actually giving them kind of like a particular training or particular things or particular like basically this thing for a month. We are kind of like only make sure that ki you are bit really productive, you are bit really aware, your kind of like a behavior would be good or things like that. Okay, yeah, for a month. In that particular month he does not really show any progress or things like that, then what exactly is this thing? Then human resource HR will gonna talk to that particular employee and gonna say that thing, your behavior is really not that good, really not really good, and you have to be fired, or we will gonna fire you. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, it's a kind of like somebody is this thing that key uh, we actually talk to that particular employee. First of all, we make sure that ki whatever the problem that employee has, like a behavior or productivity is not really good or whatever it is, okay, yeah, we have to give them training or things like that. But after the training, that particular person is not really understand or not really kind of like a grow or not really being productive, or his behavior does not really change or things like that, then probably is this thing that ki human resource will kind of like somebody tell them that ki we will gonna fire you. Okay, we will gonna fire you within a 10 to 15 days because of your behavior and things and something like that. Okay, yeah, we actually have a reason as a kind of like somebody as a kind of like somebody human resource will gonna provide the reason and things and something like that to the EOR, and EOR will get the approval from me. EOR will get the approval from the employee who is actually firing, and then firing will happen. Okay, yeah. By the way, this firing, like basically, if like a company is actually firing somebody, that means it will take time. It will take at least like a 1 month to 2 months. Okay, yeah, for the notice period and things like that. And basically, that employee would kind of like somebody let know everything regarding about what is actually problem, and we will gonna fire you and things something like that. Okay, yeah, but still as a kind of like a somebody regarding about protocol, we have to give them training. Okay, try to kind of like somebody make sure that particular person is kind of like somebody be better in his stuff and things like that. If it not, then I have to be fire that body. Okay, yeah, firing is also, and by the way, I am not gonna fire anybody without any reason or things like that. No, it's not. Okay, I need a proper protocol for this firing and things like that. So these are kind of like some stuff regarding about the legal rules to employ contract in India. Okay, by the way, these are rules are kind of like some contract that I mentioned is completely not really right or not really sure. By the way, I just kind of like a heard. I just kind of like somebody Google and Chat GPT does and kind of like a tell the information to you. Okay, yeah, but when you are kind of like doing these rules, these are kind of like a very specific rule regarding about everything. And by the way, these rules are kind of like a verified or varies from work profile, job and company or things or something like that. So basically the rule that I mentioned here is kind of like a something very different than the your kind of like a it's very different than company profile, work and job profile and everything. So yeah, so all right, this is it, and really tired right now. Thank you.